Kill me now. Welcome back to episode 201 of E-Time. If I put any snippet at the beginning, you probably...
No fucking shot, bro! Not the fourth time! It can't keep happening the moment you finish that sentence. That is like episode 201 of E-Time, and it fucking dies.
Can you hear me?
Bro, it literally is. You go episode 201 of V-Time, and then it just dies immediately.
Yeah, welcome back, everybody, to episode 201 of V-Time. Yes, it's 201. We got a big episode for you. We got a special guest echo. We have headaches of breaking up. We have the stream to cover. We have a lot of shit to go through, and hopefully it's going to go all smoothly. Ain't that right?
Existence is pain. This is the 5th time we're doing this. We have been at this for 15 years.
Look, man. Persistence is key. Just persistence is key. So,
brother, we've done this video more times than I've uploaded in the past 3 years.
Anyway, we got a jam-packed episode. We're gonna try to finish it fast because of these all these headaches. Knowing us, that's not gonna happen. But here we go.
Hey, yes, package for Mr. Top Deck Heroes.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks. Mr. Top Deck Heroes? Mr. Top Deck Heroes, your package. Man, another one? What is with this guy? Mr. Top Deck Heroes, again.
Oh, Melody again.
Mr. Top Deck Heroes, your package. Oh, God, thank you, that was heavy. What's in that one?
Oh, trading cards.
Cards. Was every one of them cards?
Yeah.
How can you afford that?
Oh, that's interesting you say that. I got it from the voice pit.
Secret.
Man, these people are crazy.
It's no secret. 50 cards. Use code TDHeroes for a discount.
For those of you who didn't potentially watch the stream or tune in to any of the products,
Crest.
or
Philip, Crest's ruined the game.
Bruh, chill. We got a technically new crest. We actually got a technically new a lot of stuff. If Philip at editing might change some stuff around, who the fuck knows? Maybe we start here. Maybe we never talked about the cards yet.
I just start screaming random shit and see when it shows up.
I know, right? We're gonna actually start here. So first thing we need to talk about is the whole rule change. Because you already alluded to it, or will allude to it. God damn, I'm making so much editing for myself.
That's crazy.
I know, right? But there has been a big rule change. The main big rule change is the fact that your deck is now consistent of 50 cards plus your ride line. So no more you have to have a deck of ride line plus deck of 50 cards. No, you have a deck of 50 cards and then plus a ride line, which means plus 4 cards, technically 5, technically 6, depending on what you're playing.
This is straight up, in my opinion, the best change they've made to Overdrive so far. This is so good.
And I just want to point out, we called it.
It's so good.
We fucking called it.
The issue you had with Overdress, like deck building wise, it's something that Overdress kind of suffered from since about set 5 onwards, which was like, you'd hit this position, right, where you had to dedicate 4 cards to your right line, you had to dedicate 4 PGs, you had to dedicate 16 triggers, at which one half of your deck was already gone. You had to run at least 3 Persona rides. Or if you had a deck that like could use the same name, maybe you had more. And like by that point, you're already looking at like almost 30 cards in your deck. And when you want to run consistently cards at playset, you don't really actually get that many slots. So it meant decks like Crossover Dress were suffering.
Yep.
Like the Crossover Dress suffered greatly for this because the mechanic required
Dude, Gravidia suffered.
So
they got a cool card on Meteors that says you can run 16 of them, but you didn't have the space for that.
Yeah, it's like then you had things like, well, actually, Bastion's probably right. Ava could really benefit from this because Ava had to start choosing after the restriction between having like early game pressure or late game pressure. Like if you played Jet, you had to run enough grade 2s that weren't GB locked, so you're not just on upstream. But if you committed to all those, you're not running any grade 1s to call off of upstream. And if you call grade 1s that can attack, you're not soul charging and you're not drawing. So it became this thing of like, you had so much you wanted to do, but you had to commit to a specific line that was the most efficient. Yep. But it would just mean that every deck basically looks the same. or at least feels kind of the same.
But now we have more to work with. Now we have extra 4 cards that are honestly going to help the slot. The ride line is no longer attached to the deck, and it's just a nice quality of change.
And you know the best thing with this that I haven't seen enough people talk about? So all the decks that filter can now filter more because you just put more things that are filterable.
Yes.
But more importantly, it is more normal units in your main deck at the start of the game, meaning you should be seeing slightly less triggers going first couple turns.
Yep, the statistical chance of hitting triggers now has decreased.
Slightly lower.
Which is still good. Like, slightly lower is still good compared to what we have currently.
The main complaint in D has been like early blowouts. So this will help quite a bit, I think. Or
now, there is a couple of Q&A questions regarding the triggers or the deck increases. Notably, you know, Griffo Seed and stuff like that is a good example. So the first question was, is the card quantity limited in the main deck and ride deck counted separately? For example, can I put 4 copies of a card that is used in the ride deck into the main deck, and that's still to say the same? No, the card quantity is total from both the main deck and the ride deck. You can have a maximum of 4 or less copies of a card in total of the main deck and ride deck. You can only have a total of 16 trigger cards in the main deck and ride deck.
Yeah, so that's obviously coming to answer for the Griffagilia question of like, no, you don't get extra triggers.
No.
Nice try, Bozo.
Now, you can't have 4 Persona rides because your ride line's in your Persona ride, yada, yada, yada. You can't have extra copies. No, your ride deck and your main deck are separated, but they're still counting together as the amount of cards you can play. This is the Griffo Seed question. For decks with Griffo Seed, what happens to the number of cards in the main deck and ride deck? Aside from the 50 card main deck, your ride deck can have 1 of each type of card with specific requirements. For example, Griffo Seed, you have the main deck with 50 cards, and your ride deck have 3 Calamity cards, and Overtrigger and Griffo Seed, and 1 ride deck crest, making the total of 6 cards. So basically, even though Griffo Seed takes the Overtrigger and puts in the ride line, you still have to have a 50 card deck. Which is good or bad. Like, technically, Griffo Seed not only gained the 4th slot, but also a 5th slot, technically, because of this.
And the cool thing as well with Griffo Seed is the cool thing with Griffo Seed working this way specifically is the fact that Griffo Seed is extra unlikely to hit triggers, which is very nice. Because now its deck is also running 1 fewer trigger, which means it's running 1 more normal unit.
And it's running 1 more card, because everybody got an increase of 4. This one got an increase of 5 cards in main deck.
Yeah, exactly. It's actually kind of cool. This might actually sway me over to playing Griffo Seed if my case ever arrives on time.
That's irony incarnate. Anyway, moving on to a couple more of the other rules that Echo is very excited for. What is it?
So, currently, for everybody playing the game, when the game starts, you would normally decide who goes first. This is normally done for either dice roll or going first or second cards. But the way the game has worked so far, or rock, paper, scissors if you're Japanese, I guess, what you would do is you would decide who goes first by playing this minigame, and the winner gets to go first by default. You don't get to choose, you do not collect go, you don't get to 200. But now, the person who does win gets to choose between going first and second, which is, in my opinion, when it was first announced, I was pretty unexcited for it. But then later on in the day, we got the reveal of the energy system that we're going to get to later, which means this choice is suddenly really, really cool. And I'm actually very, very excited, just like on the surface, seeing how much like depth exists for like the choice between going first and second. Like, how do you feel about it at the moment?
I'm liking the choice because it can determine. Granted, you potentially don't know what your opponent is playing, so you can't really make the biggest choice. But you do have my deck is better going first, my deck is better going second. If we talk about Griffo Seed that we talked about a little bit while ago, it always wants to go first because it wants to get to the main condition as fast as possible before the opponent catches up. But then you got decks like Mask decks that want to go second. You got decks like Stride decks that want to go second because they want to get to their main mechanic and plus as much as possible as soon as possible. And as like you said, the energy, if certain decks really need a lot of energy to function or do better, they might prefer going second. I also am always been a fan of going second for the simple fact that you plus overall 2 more cards than your opponent, as well as get an early attack in.
But I think that kind of has to happen though, just because by the nature of turn-based games, like the person going second is in a way always playing catch-up.
Yep.
Because the person going first does at any given point have more, like minus any sort of variety from your individual decks, like does have more options to be working with because I've always drawn one card deeper than you. But the really cool thing is, like, when we were talking earlier about the ride line for New Dragon Empire deck from the trial decks, like, I'm actually really, really liking how it actually gives you active choice of going, hey, do you want to play the game like normally? Do you want to maybe go first, play your turns out, have that little advantage? Or do you want to go second, get that early attack, and then get to mitigate that a little bit by drawing extra cards? And when we get to the energy section, you'll actually find that I'm actually really liking the way they're doing it, where they seem to be giving you these options. So, for example, you may go first and get a bit of advantage. You may go second and draw a card. But if you're playing catch-up, you're also going, hey, when you're riding certain cards, you can do X amount, or you can do X thing, or gain a resource. Which means all of a sudden, you might sit there and go, damn, my deck is actually really, really like good at early aggro, but I kind of lose if I get counter-rushed. So that being able to go like, actually, you know what, I'm going to go second so I can aggro, but I'm going to build my deck in such a way that it allows me via various costs, say, for example, the new energy rights, like getting to kind of make up that gap and protect against the clapback, which I think will make a lot in terms of like skill expression for players, which I'm pretty excited for personally.
Now, I gotta admit, thinking a little bit about it, I don't think going first, going second was that big of a determination recently. At the beginning of it was really much who goes first wins. I think recently the whole who goes first, who goes second has been less so. Because I've had games where like, fuck, I'm going second. But then, you know, it's given me more advantage or given me better chances to win.
But I think a lot of the reason for that right now is because decks got so explosive that it felt, at least to me, like it wasn't necessarily strictly who went first or second. It was about, like, for example, say you're playing something like Bastion, right? Right. You want to go first because your numbers are really awkward to guard on people whose base is slightly lower than you. But then there's decks like Minerva where if you go second, you're really happy because you get to just full combo your opponent. But then what ended up happening with that was it didn't so much matter who went first or second, it mattered who started snowballing first because there wasn't really a way of stopping that. But I feel like the extra deck slots might give people the space to start playing around the snowballs, which is where I think the interesting thing is going to come in. But we're going to have to see some more effects for that.
Now we actually get to talk about the energy. So, with the inclusion of the new ride deck rules and everything, they've introduced a whole new game rule to the game, and it's called an energy generator. Basically what happens is each deck may put this in their ride deck, and basically it doesn't count as a crest, it doesn't count as a actual deck crest, it counts as a ride deck crest if I understand it correctly. Yeah. And the way it works is the first time you ride, you put this crest into the crest zone, and yes, there is a new crest zone. It is right above the G zone, yada, yada, yada.
It's where most of you put your right decks.
Pretty much. On top of that, if you win second, you get to energy charge 3. Now, immediately after that, you can only have 10 energy max. So you can't go over 10, you can't go to 12, you can't go to 13, you cap at 10. And then this third ability, because this is a crest and this has abilities. At the beginning of your ride phase, you energy charge 3. So that's how you keep gaining these energies and these resources that cards will pay. As such, the crest does have an energy blast ability of once per turn act ability, energy blast 7, and draw a card. Now it all makes more sense.
Yeah, so the thing personally, I love this mechanic so much because the thing for me is, this is a standard exclusive mechanic, which kind of fills the gap to me of what standard should have been, which is it's this space where until now, it felt like standard was like weak premium with a right deck, but now it's like a distinctly different game, which I'm now it has
so many different actual elements into it. It's so different. You don't have the G assist. You have a ride deck. You have an energy crest. Like Persona Ride's more relevant. Like you have so many nuances in standard now that do not show up in premium anymore.
Yeah, I'm like this alone. And the fact I love is always the fact that it has the inherent like act skill, which basically goes, you know what? If you want to play an old deck and you just want to plus every once in a while, you don't need to play energy cards. You can play your like set 13 full blast Youthberg for as long as you want. You can just use this card, and every once in a while you get to draw an extra card. Like it doesn't force you to use new effects, which I'm
so if we just take that, and not count the ride line grade 2 that we talked about, or we will talk about, or however I'm going to head to this. Going first, you get 3 energy on your second turn because when you make the crest, you can't energize because it's past your right phase.
It's the start of right deck, yeah. Or right phase, yeah.
So by turn 3 you have 6, by turn 4 you have 9, so you can energy blast 7, and yada yada yada. Yeah. So after that point, it almost becomes like an every 2 turn, but that's turn 5, 6, and so forth. Going second, by the time you get to turn 3, you have 9, which means on your turn 3, going second, you can already energy blast 7 to draw an extra card and give yourself a little bit of extra advantage going second.
Yeah, which actually, if you think about it earlier, so you know what I was saying earlier, that the fact that when you go first, you get to benefit a bit from having that extra aggro, from having slightly awkward numbers. This is a situation when that comes up. So if your opponent does commit that extra shield, so for example, if I'm going second, my opponent swings at me for 13 from my 10, I have to drop a trigger for a 1 to pass, whereas otherwise I might have dropped something maybe a bit lower. All of a sudden, it lets me make up that card back, which is actually really, really cool. It just gives you those like little incremental adds, which I'm a big fan. I'm really looking forward to seeing how they use it.
Now, of course, as such, with a new mechanic, there is always a Q&A. First one, while I have 8 energy and I energy charge free, how much energy do I have a total? Like we mentioned, you can only have 10 energy. You will not go over 10 energy.
As we keep saying to everybody in our locals who asks, in Bushiroad games, when you read an effect, you do as much as you can. And that's basically... And effectively, that's going to be the simple part. I know a lot of players are going to get really confused by this, but no, you do generally just do as much of the skill as you can, and everything past that is just going to get effectively wasted. So I think it's where energy management is going to become like a really skill-expressive thing to do.
Exactly. Then the big important question, because this is a crest. After getting the energy crest, can I get other crests? And that, yes, you can. This is a ride deck crest and not a game mechanic crest. This actually is a card that exists technically as part of your deck build because it's in your ride line, while other crests are like pseudo cards that get generated after you meet the conditions, in the sense of the stride deck sets when you ride the grade 1, in the sense of Mushiking when you ride on top of the grade 0, and so forth and so forth.
So actually, this actually makes me wonder, because I was like, a part of me goes in my head until now, there's never been a situation where you can have multiple crests. But interesting enough, if this is going to ever be in deck log, is like, I think you have to include, then that means there's going to be at some point a deck that is specifically if you do not have an energy crest, which will be kind of cool, because I wonder how they'll do that.
That would be cool, because if I understand correctly, this needs to be in ride deck to work, because the energy crest itself actually says underneath it, energy generator ride deck / crest.
Yeah, because I mean, this has to be in a deck log, right? So it's not like inherently generated. Because like, you don't need to put your jet crest in a deck log, but you might need this.
So this has to be in a deck because it has the first ability that says auto ride deck. When you ride, you get this. Yeah. So the only way to get this is to be in the ride deck.
Because that means there's going to be decks that don't require this, which will be kind of cool.
That is design space for later, but now we need to answer question 3. When keeping track of energy, can I use other items such as dice or counters? No, you cannot.
Cringe.
Yeah. You can use the energy counters found in the startup trial deck or energy cards distributed in the future products. There's going to be energy cards that you can use, or you can use the counter on screen. You honestly could have made a spin down.
If your locals doesn't have this tri deck, just buy Digimon memory counters. They're the same thing.
I do feel like this is unnecessary. Like, it's just a resource to keep track of. If you're going to give us a canner, why not just us make us our own canners? But sure.
In fairness, though, Bushiroad has also been against like things like taking notes before. So in fact, there's never a situation where this specifically comes up, but like, for example, I can't have a sheet of paper where I note down if I'm playing like Premium Aquaforce, how many, like what wave I'm on.
I mean, it's so, like,
similar
to the ruling.
You can make the same argument, but
it's similar to the sense of ruling with, this actually came up with Orphis and Granfia a lot. In the sense of whenever you're generating Shadow Army tokens, you have to be able to generate the thing. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to call a new Shadow Army token over this Shadow Army token, so I'm just going to use this one and restand it.
Yeah.
So you will have to be able to generate another Shadow Army token. And the same for Granfia. For Granfia, because of the Rose Noblesse token, the easiest thing is to do is say, here's a dice to indicate how many plant tokens or plant gauges is on it. No, they actually require you to have plant tokens underneath the card and generate. So if you can't generate or have enough plant tokens to fulfill Granfia's cost...
I do think that's pretty cringe, honestly. I think that's like the worst thing about it for me.
But that is where this also stems. It is the same ruling concept as those. So it's Bushiroad's thing. They want to do it this way, sure. I don't understand it. I do not agree with it. But that's the way they said it. So it's like, fine. I'll just use the energy counter. It's the easiest way.
The issue for me is like the counter is like probably the ideal way to do it, but Bushiroad doesn't make anything that you can put on it, which makes it a bit weird. Whereas like you could put a dice on it ideally.
Yeah.
It gives people use with the clan dice from V, so that'd be cool. But the thing that I don't like is like, the energy cards?
Yeah.
The issue I have with those is like, they feel like Dawn cards from One Piece. But the issue is One Piece has a much cleaner board than Vanguard does. So I think it'll be a real mess to like keep track of it. One Piece has like a dedicated zone. And I don't think a Vanguard playmat can like fit that anymore.
You
So I
already
think it ends up
have
looking
your
really clunky.
extra deck if you're running strides or not. You already have your damage on the left side. You got a deck, your drop zone, potentially ride lane. You got now crest zone. Your field's
auto
already
zone,
full.
your crest zone, your G zone, your ride deck, your main deck, your drop zone, your like field, your guardian circle. Like there's just this damage zone. Like there's just not
To
the
keep
space.
the field clean, the energy counter itself, I think, is the best way. If you want to
Yeah.
use the energy cards, sure,
Or-
you're just going to
or-
clutter your field.
Counter argument: Bushiroad can get really based, and this will be based Bushiroad, and they do what Digimon does, and they incorporate the energy counter into the playmat.
That would be cool. That would be really
Just
cool.
on either side of the guardian circle, be based. That would be cool.
But that's not where it ends. We got 2 more questions. Can I put energy generator in the main deck? No, you cannot. Put it in the main deck. You can only put in the right deck crest card in the right deck because it is a right deck crest card.
Yes.
And the
So
last question, can I put energy generator in my deck for V premium in premium format?
no, you cannot do so. It can only be used for the standard format.
Which
Which
is
is-
something we already technically covered.
Yeah, it's what I was saying earlier. Like, this to me makes standard the format it should have been. As in the sense of, it's not just... Because the big issue people had with V was that it was just like simpler premium at the time. Or like simpler G. It was
Yeah.
like, wow, I'm playing the same game, I'm just able to do less. And that's kind of how standard felt for me for a lot of it. But this distinctly makes it a different game with different resources, which means I can play it in premium and get 2 unique like experiences that don't necessarily come at the expense of each other, which I really like.
It finally became a different format instead of a dumbed down format.
Yeah. It's like the fact that you can make cards that are, for example, like premium for people who play it, know that a big issue has been in the past couple of years that for a card to see play in premium, it needs to have some broken bullshit interaction with some like random niche card. But this means you can have like distinctly good like standard cards that don't immediately break premium because you can just tie it to the energy cost.
You mean
And like,
like
we see a lot of cards get really creative with it, so it actually gives them a lot more design space without breaking other formats.
what was that Stoicagrade 3 that broke Gravidia for a bit? Not Gravidia, Gerdora.
Colony. Yeah, no, so that was its own Ruination Dragon, wasn't it? It was the Grade 3 was like on place, pick an order from your drop zone and just play it.
Yeah, and
then
it
you
made
just
the book
played
that
it,
Soul
it was like
Blast
draw
3,
three.
Counter Blast 3, yep.
Yeah, again, draw 3 cards, because with Persona, you just gave your front row like 20k each, and then drew like 4 cards, and your opponent was just like, yeah, okay, I can't got that.
Exactly. Anyway,
Like, let's go.
first on the agenda, we need to talk about the trial decks. And yes, we still know the official English date for the trial decks is April 19th. So looking forward to when those start coming out. But an important thing to note, going over a couple of things about the trial decks, is the fact that we only have 2 card types. The Grade 3 and the Sentinels are the only things that are going to have the abilities, but it's also going to come with a tutorial video.
To be fair, I remember the Toro video that came out with Overdress. That was actually pretty helpful in getting people in. And apparently this one is going to have some scripted aspects that are going to make it even easier. So that's great.
Exactly. On top of the promos where you can get one of the triggers, and then the second promo is going to be an actual effect, a good effect PG, potentially becoming a Elementaria, which is also just good pulls.
To be fair, it is pretty good that it gives you the option of like giving you a guaranteed staple, and these staples are things you can really never have enough of. Like, I don't care what anybody says, you can never have enough effect triggers in like PGs. And Elementaria
Exactly.
being a hit is great.
Now, to go back a little bit on the teaching video, we got a full deck list of the trial decks. And for people that might have not already known, but this is the full trial deck and what all is expected to come. Cards that have stars on them actually will have effects inside of the booster set for DZ, or DivineZ, or however you want to abbreviate
These
that.
nuts.
That joke was gonna come. I was waiting for it, but I can't help it. One thing to note right away, though, for this is the fact that these cards will have numbers on them in the child deck, which apparently is going to help with the training video, the learning video, basically help you stack the cards in the correct order and then follow along with the video as you play.
Yeah, the one thing that's going to be really cool for that is because the previous video that we had kind of gave people a general flow of the game, but not really like a full-on breakdown of how you would play things out. But if they play their cards well with this one, what it's going to probably create is a situation where you stack your deck a certain way, as does your opponent, and then you can like actually see things develop as you play. So I can see them, if they do this correctly, can be a pretty helpful tool for like brand new players. Because you can just follow along and script it, or shuffle the deck and play normally.
Exactly. So looking forward to seeing how that video turns out. But moving forward from that, we actually got to start talking about the cards that are going to be inside of that thing. And we're going to actually start ourselves off, maybe making this a little bit different. There we go. With the starter for the first start deck, and that is going to be
His skill is so cool. It's so unique.
Look, we got to start somewhere, and we always start with a starter. Blade
That's
of
fair.
Fervor, Aldred. There's not going to be much of a theme going into the ride line. It's just your generic ride line, but it's still going to be interesting. We're going to go with a grade 1. Echo, what does the grade 1 do? Here's an actual effect you can talk about.
Yeah, so this is Thundering Flame Beast Carolior, which is auto when this unit is rode upon by Thundering Beast, what's it? Kitten Rise?
Yep.
You Energy Blast 2 and a draw card, and then continues on Rearguard cycle during your turn. If you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Triumph Dragon in its card name, this gets plus 5k. So
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But overall, just talking about the grade 1 real quick, just, paying a resource, draw a card, which is always good, and then a decent rearguard ability.
So I think the really cool thing here, and this is something I love, so with the new rule changes, forcing the person, meaning the person who wins the dice roll gets to choose to go first or second, this actually adds a really cool dynamic to it, because if you're the person going second, then what will happen is you get a ride off of this, you draw a card. So if you go second, you start turn 1 on 3 energy, go into turn 2 on 6.
Spoilers,
this puts you down to 4. And then later on, you would go up to 7, which means you can draw an extra card on turn 2 and turn 3, which is really cool. Because the person going first has to wait all the way to like either that, because if you're the person going second, this puts you down on 1, meaning you can't draw an extra card until turn 4, which is like kind of feels bad. So this is actually like a really good going second ride line.
If you don't have anything else to use your energy on.
Yeah, for now. I'm saying, as of set 1, this seems like a really cool deck that would like want to go second, because getting a free card to turn early is fantastic.
Exactly. But you know what? We're sticking with this order. We're going to go through here, and we're going to go for the ride line next, grade 2. Thundering Beast Kineris. Whatever that name is.
Kitten Rise.
Exactly. It's a grade 2 for the ride line that says, auto, when this unit is rode upon by grade 3 card with Triumph Dragon in its card name, you may call this card to rearguard. If you did not call a card, Energy Charge 3, which is honestly decently big. And it continues Guardian Circle. If you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Triumph Dragon in its card name, this unit gets shield plus 10k, making it a 15k shield.
So it's either a 15k intercept, or it lets you draw a card like on turn 3.
Pretty much.
Because if we're saying, yeah, so this guarantees that even if you go first, you still get to draw the card on turn 3. But if you do it with going second, you get to like basically set yourself up for the next turn as well. That is actually kind of an insane ride line card.
Honestly,
you know what would be really cool? If this card exists in Hollow. That'd be really cool.
Moving forward, or technically moving backwards, we can finally continue or talk about the actual cards in the start decks. Now we do know what the energy things do.
It's the return of Dragons. I'm so happy. It's Dragons.
This is a Bushiroad game. We're always going to have Dragons. As such, what is this Dragon main boss unit in the Dragon Empire start deck for DivineZ do? Who is it?
I'll do it, sure. This is Thundering Dragon, Triumph Dragon, which has 2 abilities. It has Act, Vanguard once per turn, Counterblast 1. Search your deck for up to 1 card with the same name as this unit. Reveal it and put it into your hand, shuffle the deck. And this unit gets plus 10k until the end of turn. And when it attacks a Vanguard, you may Energy Blast 4. Choose one of your opponent's rear guards, retire it. And this unit gets plus 5k, plus 1 crit until the end of that battle. So the cool thing for me is that it's, well, pretty obvious to me that there's going to be other cards with Triumph Dragon in their names.
Yep.
Because otherwise it would just be a copy of this card. But it wants a card with it in the name.
No, it searches one card with the same card name as this unit.
Yeah, but in the sense of like Thagrius can have like continuous skill, like this can have the other name.
You're thinking about stuff like Dress Up, yeah.
Yeah, so I can't think of like you can just have abilities of going, oh, this is also Triumph Dragon in the deck or something like that.
Correct.
So it's a fact that like it gets you to such Persona right in the trial deck, so it like ensures that you always have it. So for the purpose of teaching somebody, this is a cool effect. I think we're probably going to talk about what I think these decks should have been a bit later, but we'll get to that. And the second effect that I do like is it lets you utilize, again, give a player introduction to the energy system and help them utilize it to both draw a card, teach them that you can choose between plussing to board and gaining a resource, or should you choose to maintain all of this, then you're guaranteed to be able to proc this effect on turn 3, by which you give yourself plus 5k plus 1 crit, meaning your opponent has to drop 20k for 1 pass, or front trigger if they get lucky enough on the deck gacha, I guess. So this kind of pressure, I think, becomes really, really cool in a teaching deck. Even if I do think this is a card that gets almost immediately cut the second that the main set comes out.
I mean, that's why it's a teaching deck. Like, if we take, for example, the trial decks of Youthberg, Leonor, and Drajul, not one card, especially the main boss unit in those decks, stuck around. They were really good to get the feel for of the main mechanic.
No, so most of those decks had either a card from the expansion set that got kept. For most of them are still seeing play today. Well, some of them are still seeing play today, rather.
Yeah, but we're talking about the main boss unit.
But you have to remember that the distinct thing for those is that they were designed in such a way that when you get the main set boss unit, it just subs in for that trial deck's boss unit. Whereas these ones specifically require Triumph Dragon. So This isn't like a deck that... So for example, Youth was based around Youth and then Youthberg, but Youthberg was both the trial deck card and the main set card. Like Leonor was written about by a Leonor, or like Drajul was a Drajul. Like that kind of thing. So like where you could just sub them in, whereas here it's specifically tied to Triumph Dragon, which is like the strange part for me. But we'll see how that works out, I suppose.
Only time will tell. This is very, very early inside of DZ. This is the first actual effects we've seen in DZ.
Yeah.
Next week we're going to see Dark States, and they're going to slowly start leaking stuff as such, and we'll see how that goes.
Can't wait for Nosferatu's to come out.
I know, right? But before we get to that point, we need to talk about the other 4 cards that are coming in the booster set that will be supporting this deck in technicality, or just good generic cards for Dragon Empire. For example, we have a grade 1 rare Stealth Dragon Kudan Musubi. Its effect is auto. When this card is discarded from hand during your ride phase, you may call this card to rearguard as rest, which is a very just simple, straightforward effect of just not minusing in a sense.
Yeah, so this is something we've seen before. I believe Youthberg had this, as did Leonor.
Jewel had a put the soul instead of call to board, but yes.
Yes. Leonor, I'm pretty sure Leonor and Youth had these call to board ones. Dragon Empire is kind of in a weird spot where it has a better version of this, which is the Madoka. Oh, no, it was Madoka. I think it was Tengen. It was an effect that goes to soul instead, when you just got for right deck. The concern I have with these cards, at least for me, is it's kind of strange for me how like they get printed in the trial deck as a vanilla, but these effects don't seem like they would really break a new player's brain. So it's a bit strange for me that they're kind of like reprinting it with effects you kind of have to buy the same cards twice, which I'm finding a bit strange, but as a common or a rare effect, it's like pretty harmless. Maybe a bit basic for a rare, but we'll see how it goes.
Who knows? Maybe you get certain effects that make this bonkers. Like there have been commons and rares down the road or in the past that were like, oh, what does this do? And then later you find a way to break it. Speaking of commons, though, we do have another common.
Oh, rest in peace, Dinosaur Laser Beam Fight Club. Shout out Charlie. He still doesn't have a Dino deck in D. We
do. It's a promo.
We still don't have a Dino deck in D, bro. That feels bad.
Well, what does this grade 2 do?
Well, it's auto and Rearguard Cycle.
What's the name first?
It is Strong Strike Dragon Spino Assaulter. What the fuck? Okay, that's such a good name. I love that name. That name is really cool. So it's auto and Rearguard Cycle. Dude, I'm going to assault your spine. I will teach you Cyberpunk in real life. When your opponent's Rearguard is retired by your grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Vanguard's ability, this unit gets plus 10k until the end of turn. So it's just a weird beat stick. I don't think that does the Vanguard retire?
Yes, the Vanguard's Energy Blast 4, retire rearguard, +5 and crit.
Oh, right, retire a rearguard, and if it's empty, you get the thing, sure. I mean, yeah, that seems fine. I don't think
for Triumph Dragon, this is a 20k beat stick.
Yeah, 20 to 30k. Probably 28 to 38 because you're probably going to boost it, right?
Hey, man.
It seems decent.
Hey, man, look, this is also Eugene support.
I swear to God, man.
It's a Vanguard. It's a Vanguard that can retire. Eugene can retire, but a Vanguard has ability, so this will gain 10k in Eugene.
Phil, I don't think you understand. The damage you've done to the psyche of the Eugene playing community is unmatched. The amount of copio given these people.
On the quick flip side, though, Gandiva can also use this. I'm trying to think of other Dragon Empire decks that can use this, and if, I'm starting to run out real fast. I just love that
flavor text. Now rush forward indiscriminately.
Holy shit, I'm going to skip that card real quick and move on to the next one. We have another rare for Dragon Empire. It's a grade 1 again. Drag Ritter Yumna. She's just an 8k that says, auto rearguard, when this unit boosts, if your opponent has 2 or less rearguards, counterblast 1, energy blast 2, draw a card, and this unit gets power 5k until the end of that battle. So it's a very simple, straightforward effect of just plussing and being a good beater.
Yeah, this I am liking the fact that they're tying these effects together. Because like these are really basic. Because I think that we've been looking at some of the other effects of like what energy's been tied to. So we're kind of starting to see what their early evaluation of like energy blast to other costs is.
It looks like energy blast 2 is super tied to gaining plus 5k. Counterblast has always historically been tied to drawing a card or plussing in some way, shape, or form. So basically gaining 5k and drawing a card for a Counterblast and Energy Blast 2 makes a lot of sense here.
Yeah, they seem to be evaluating an energy as at about like 2 to 3 energy per Counterblast. Which is okay, but then this means it's like one of those commons or rares that's going to get cut out pretty quickly because it is an effective Counterblast 2 draw card, which is a bit ass. But for a first set, it's... I think while there aren't better energy options, this will be seeing play. But then as soon as there are better energy options, then like obviously it's going to start getting trimmed.
All right. I'm going to actually cover this one because trust me. The last card we're going to see for the child deck upgrade that's in the set is another common grade 2. For some reason, the grade 1s are rares, the grade 2s are commons. Don't ask me why. And that's Stealth Rogue of Throwing Sword Kagechi. He's a grade 2 that says, auto when this card is discarded from hand during your ride phase, Soul Blast 2 and draw a card. Simple, straightforward.
This card is cool, but it's kind of awkward because like you kind of have to discard it on turn 2 or 3 to Soul Blast to ride.
Correct.
But the cool thing is this does set up the... Am I wrong in saying the Dragon Empire Cat countercharges?
No, the Dragon Empire Cat draws a card.
Draws a card. Because this basically lets you draw 2 if you do on turn 2 or later. Which
I will say, I've used that cat in a recent video with Zlands, and it has come in handy a lot. Just being able to just place it, get an 8k booster on the board, and on top of just drawing a card.
Well, the cool thing is, if you look at the trial deck, the thing to note is there haven't actually been many Soul Blast costs so far.
No, so this is just going to always work.
Yeah, so you, for example, what you can do is you discard on turn 2, you write grade 2, you pay this, you draw a card. You can't, you draw 1 more. You write turn 3, you call the grade 2 out, or you don't call out energy charge 3, then Persona Ride, play the second copy of the cat, return the other 2, draw another card. So it seems like they're giving you in exchange, because what the nice thing with D is because of just Vanguard being Vanguard, you go through so much of your deck. And I like that in spite of the fact that we have more normal units in the deck now, what they seem to be trading that off with is we're going to reduce early sack, but we're also going to give you a lot of ways to gain just plussing, so that later in the game you're in the same position, but earlier in the game there's less sack.
So I like all the elaboration, but I'm needing you to save all the elaboration for the next card.
Hit me. Oh, my beloved. My beloved. I believe this is the card from the latest Overdress chapter, I'm pretty sure, right?
This is the card from the next chapter or the next issue of Monthly Bushiroad while it's still going on, yes.
Yeah, so this is Blaze Maiden Cindy. Her effect is act on Rearguard Circle. If you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Nirvana or Buff Saga in its card name, you put this card into Soul. You choose a card with the Overdress, Overdress or Cross Overdress ability, or an Arms card from your drop zone and put it into your hand. And also in the drop zone, When a unit with Trick Star or Trick Moon in its card name is placed on rearguard cycle by your grade 3 or greater Vanguard's ability, other than during the battle phase, if you do not have a rearguard with the same name as this, you may call this card to the rearguard cycle. This card, in conjunction with the 50 card main deck, is so
Holy
good.
fucking shit.
This card is so gas. Oh my god.
So I recently
she's
played a
not once
Nirvana
per turn.
deck, right?
Philip, she's
Yeah,
not
she's
once
not.
per turn.
No, she's not a hard once per turn. She is
so good.
She doesn't need to be a once per turn because she goes away, so it doesn't matter if she's a once per turn. She's not a hard once per turn, which we haven't seen in standard at all. Standard has taken away from V the whole hard once per turn.
Like, Philip, you can literally go, and this is the insane thing, right? You can literally, like, call her down, put her to soul, add a crossover just target, discard her. Oh, sorry, discard something for, like, reviving 2.
Dude, discard the
Reviving a
grade
copy
2
from
prayer dragon, call the grade 2 prayer dragon, soul blast her, use his ability.
Sir. Yes, sir. Well, not from the grade 2 prayer dragon, because you soul blast her out. Switch another prayer dragon. That prayer dragon can even be the illumination one, the one that top 7 checks 2 for 2 Nirvanas.
Yeah.
Then use the Vanguard skill, revive 2, and then revive her as well, and use her to search another crossover dress card.
Pretty much.
Honestly, this card is so good.
So I recently played Alex's Nirvana deck, trying to figure out what's been going wrong with it because he was a little bit struggling. And then when I played
it needed exactly this.
Oh, not only that, yes, but his initial build was not running any Vilserina, which in my opinion is not good because if you don't see any crossover dresses in your hand, you're not playing the game, so you need a way to reoccur if people kill them and so forth and so forth. This card basically, in my head, was like, man, maybe I really don't need to run Vils anymore.
So you do need to run Vils because you need crossover dress units. But what this does that's really cool, and this is the issue crossover dress had for the longest time. You either ran Trickstar right deck because you needed enough Trickstars in circulation to do anything. Because if you have a situation where you have only one Trickstar in circulation, you're doing not that much. You have to keep sacking your own board just to like try and recover yourself, right?
But that's why you need to run the grade 1 prayer dragon.
Well, hang on. So yes, but hang on. So the issue you have is you run the grade 1 prayer dragon, right? But you don't want to run too many copies of him because he's a lot of CB and you currently use a lot of CB, right? So your issue then became where you ended up in a lot of situations where you were either missing an extra prayer dragon, missing a Trickstar, or missing a crossover dress unit. And there wasn't any, so you'd find yourself in a situation where you were always setting up 2 of those 3. But you couldn't get the 4th one, or the 3rd one, rather.
But now she gets you everything you need.
Yeah, so you could have a situation where, for example, you'd have like a board, and Trickstar players, like Nirvana players would know exactly what I'm talking about, where you have like a prayer dragon on the board. Could be it Stragaglio or the Illumination one, the set 9 one or set 10 one, the top 7 one, right?
Yeah.
One of those 2 is on the board. You discard something, you revive the other one in Trickstar, right? And now your options are you can't go into the Illumination because you need another. Because you either go over Stragaglio with Bills, so you can add a crossover just unit to hand and revive a Trickstar, or you go over the Illuminal and go into Mirrors, but Mirrors wouldn't generate you enough advantage. It wouldn't give you a way of calling another Trickstar, so you could crossover dress again. But if you crossover dress again of the Stragaglio, you had a Trickstar but no other crossover dress target. So you'd always have like something missing.
Dude, like this just fixed all the necessary problems on top of just being fucking free. Like it doesn't cost anything other than putting itself into soul, but it gets itself out of soul for free by just doing the main gimmick of the Vanguard. Like it was a necessary utility card to help Nirvana, even Bob Sagara, just start running.
This card is so gas. I love this card so much. It's like it reads like not a staggering amount, but it just solves that like little niche problem you had. Because the issue Nirvana had was you had to minus so much and you have not much shield value. So you had to like take a bunch of hits and pray for defensives. Or you were always like 1 piece shy. And it's just like slots in.
That's the best part here. It's probably not going to come up at all. It's not going to come up at all. But this is technically still a Blaze Maiden. If you run a Blaze Maiden engine for some reason, you can.
So I still pray that one day they make a Blaze Maiden engine that like works.
Because there is that one Blaze Maiden card we got that's like rest 3 Blaze Maidens and do something decently.
Yeah, because you had the old Blaze Maiden that was like Trick Moon support and Trickstar support. You had the 2 from set 4, I think, that gave each other power. They were like shit Pearl Sisters. like they have a lot of Blaze Maidens, but they don't like have a coherent strategy yet. And I hope that they do one day. I think that'd be kind of cool.
But
I think they kind of realized that with the maids for Brancade, but this card's just insane. I love it.
But now we do have 2 Blaze Maidens that are going to see actual play. This one and as well as the other one that basically just finds you a Trickster or Trick Moon and puts it in drop. That one is still more played in Basagara than in the Nirvana deck.
Yeah, so Nirvana just doesn't have the space. There's just no need for her.
But I can even see Basagara, like this in Basagara, because we talked about Nirvana, and it's very obvious how good this is in Nirvana, both Jiva and Mahar. But for Basagara, this just helps anything and everything. It gives you more soul, so you can have the Soul Blast to do things. It gives you back arms, so you can kind of combo yourself off more, draw more cards, do re-arm, fix arms, whatever you want.
Yeah.
It's just, or honestly, at the end of the day, if you really don't want to put it to soul and you're already set up, it just makes another fucking unit on the board. Also,
I'm going to be 100% real with you. I'm willing to say that I think with this card existing, if we get it in time, in conjunction with the 50 card main deck, I think it can actually turn Jiva into like a deck that is capable of topping. Like
Jiva, in my honest opinion, is either a tier or a high B tier deck right now because it still has 5 attacks, it still has a triple driving 23k Vanguard, and on top of that, if you really need to, it does have a board wipe.
So I would put Jiva personally, if you have like S tier as the highest, probably as like a B tier deck because it's like still kind of bricky sometimes, and like Strath Arena helps a lot, but triple drive in a vacuum doesn't really do a massive amount, especially when everything you're drive checking are like pieces you can't afford to discard.
Nah, like combined, I honestly believe combined with Straw, Mirror, and the new Jiva being able to triple drive and you having just access to 5 attacks, I honestly do think it is either A tier or high B, one of the two.
I would put it like a B with like the opportunity of being low A if it high rolls.
Because I will say this with full confidence: what's stopping Jiva is the players. You need an actual good player to pilot the deck because the deck is super complicated to make sure you combo off everything correctly resource-wise.
The issue you have is Mirrors is a really good card, but Mirrors isn't reusable. Which is kind of where the problem becomes, because for a perfect turn you need 2 CB, 2 to 3 technically, but call it 2.
You only really need 2.
Yeah, but for you to need 2, you need to keep seeing Mirrors to CC, and then you have to pop it and recall it to be able to recreate that.
There's literally a Prayer Dragon that pops an Overdress unit, and if you pop an Overdress unit, on top of that you get to draw a card. Now we have Cindy.
Philip, what's the cost on that regard?
Yeah, I know it's a CB, but it also gives you a plus to board.
Like, it gives you a plus to board, but it's like another CB, and which means you're not countercharging that turn, you're breaking even, which is the issue. Or you're countercharging 1 technically, but you still need to have all that available CB.
Okay, actually, you know what? I retract my statement because I remember playing Mirrors whenever it first came out, and you know what you do? You fucking intercept with that fucker.
Yeah, sure.
And then you use Cindy to get him back.
Yeah, you could do that. Yeah, but the issue you'd have, and that's the main issue that Nirvana had, was that numbers got so big that your intercepts were like you intercepting for its own sake, but it wasn't like doing much. Which was kind of
the only reason I say high B A tier is because I played Nirvana, I built the deck, I lasted, I'm not even fucking joking, I lasted 4 grade 3 turns against the Gandiva with Nirvana. I never had a chance of winning because I never had a good enough push, but I lasted against Gandiva.
That's the thing, and I do think Nirvana has been getting progressively better, and this is like a big thing that it was needing, and we're going to be able to show that off later on the proxy play, because this card, just in like the goldfishing games, has been like so cracked. This card has been so cool.
Moving on, we do have to talk about everything else that happened. So we're going to backtrack, forward track, however you want to call it.
Oh my god, it's you.
God fucking damn, man. Yes, we're going to talk about DivineZ.
Oh my god, it's a Shadowverse Flame collab. That's crazy.
The actual anime coming out. And the first episode, it will be airing January 12th. Harazah, yes, I know, it does look like you.
Are we doing a watch stream?
If you want to, sure, but for
you
right
and
now...
Eric shit posting this, let's go. That'll be the debut episode.
Outside of, yes, he looks like you, seeing the PV, I'm actually more invested in these characters than I ever was in the previous ones. I'm very interested to see what the Gloomy guy does. Both of the girls seem cool. I'm fully in love with the Velstra dude, and Masanori is just a great dick.
I'll be real. Like I was a bit like the PV looks cool, but my only concern is that they're trying to do like the G thing where they're like, we're just going to time skip a little bit and the old cast comes back. But I think that the D cast is like really unlikable. Like they don't really have much personality, so I'm not a massive fan of it.
Look, they picked two of the more likable characters.
No, Masanori sucks. What do you mean?
He's actually a really cool character. I actually like him.
What does he do? He builds Buddhas. What do you mean?
He's the antagonist.
Okay, sure.
Says the man with a fucking Masanori picture for his Discord.
Brother, he just, no, it's a funny screenshot. Dude just like bombs theme parks. But no, like
regardless, we can spend a million years here. We do have to start moving on because I don't want this to be a 2-hour video time.
We have a Lelouch plushie. What do you mean? That thing's so cool. What do you mean?
I want to cover real quick the units each of those characters is going to be playing. All right?
Oh, they do look really cool.
They do. We're going to start off with the main character. His name is Akina Mayoro. Yes, it's not Yu, even though he looks like it.
That's what they all
And
say.
his main unit is going to be Faded One of Miracles, Raziel.
Isn't this Nirvana's artist?
The what?
Wasn't the person who painted this like Nirvana's artist?
Honestly, I have no idea. The illustrations, the guy who illustrated his name is on the bottom. I cannot read Japanese, so I can't tell you if it's that correct name, but maybe. Regardless, it looks cool.
You know, don't worry.
It looks cool. We're going back to a Catermain main character. Jesus fucking Christ.
He will be missed.
One thing to know with these units that we're going to be covering, all of them are going to have the name Faded One of something. And this might tie into some other stuff we're going to talk about, but first let's look at who all they are. We already know Taizo Kyokura is coming back, and because he is coming back, holy fucking shit,
He's got hands, Philip. He's got hands.
We are getting Faded One of Gilding Stars Velstra Blitz Arms.
Philip, he doesn't skip arm day. Look at him.
Bruh, I'm not gonna lie to you. I found out about this literally in the line for passport check in a Madrid airport, and I almost nutted on the spot.
Jesus Christ.
Holy shit. You do not understand how make...
Wait, is this the Iron Man suit he builds in the lore?
Apparently, this might be it.
Bro, he got hands, dude. This dude got hands. Look at him.
Oh, I can't wait. This is going to be so much excited. Anyway.
Oh, wow. It's literally Blitz arms. Goddamn.
I know, right? This. Anyway, Echo, what about your favorite Masanori?
Christ. So, I am happy to see at least the voice actor back, because this is Shin's old voice actor, so I'm only thing I like about him. But this is Fated One of Taboo, Zorga Nadir. I am kind of excited for this, because A, I like Zorga as a deck, and second of all, or B, I guess, what would be really, really cool, I think, is if they introduce like a new order type, so like taboo cards.
Ooh,
I think
that would be
kind of cool.
You're not gonna even mention how Zorga turned into a fucking Kraken?
Zorga fused with a crit trigger, so it knows its playstyle, which I appreciate. This is what happens when Zorga embraces the prison dragon aesthetic.
Valid.
Lil bro is gonna crit you.
Moving on to Dragon Empire.
She's cool.
Yep, we have a new female lead, I want to assume, because of the way posters and character introductions have been made. We got Naoi Nabe, and her main unit is going to be Fated One, an unparalleled Varga Draugrs.
The unit looks really neat. I kind of can't get over how like cool the unit looks.
So Alex
I'm not like super sold on the design, but the design of the unit's cool.
So Alex is already jumping on this and saying that this might be his new main deck because it's combining the aesthetic of Nubatama and Murakumo in one.
So it's combining what should have happened 13 years ago.
Pretty much. It's just another cool ninja-looking dragon, so we'll see what actually it does. Overall, the design of it looks very fucking neat. I love how he's got basically a light and a dark sword.
That is cool. That is really neat. I'm a big fan of like the wing design on it. And okay. I'm just gonna say this now. This Bermuda card, I don't care about Bermuda being in main sets. I don't give a shit. But I think this specific art, this is Nirvana's artist. I was wrong. This is the one. And it just looks beautiful. I'm so fucking happy that they stop Lyrical being like the high school deck.
Yes.
I don't mind the Bermuda, like the Highlander aesthetic, the mermaid aesthetic. I just don't like the constant school aesthetic. But this card right there is so fucking cool looking. So this is Mikoto Saito, which is Fated One of ever-changing Chris Rain. Chris Rain, I'm guessing, is going to be the name?
Chris Rain.
And this is going to be well, that's what means. You can probably move on to the next slide because I think I know what it is. This does mean that, okay, maybe it's not, go back. This does mean that Bermuda will be a part of main sets going forward.
No, this is already confirmed. Bermuda is going to be a part of main sets. We're going to get to that slide. I know which one you're talking about, but before we get to there, I need to talk about potentially my next main Dark States deck with the character introduction of Suo Yobutsuki.
Holy shit.
I know, right? We're getting Fated One of 0, Blendgerme. Blendmeyer,
I guess. I don't know.
Dude, these names are hard. Like,
Bro,
let me see how the characters actually say them, and then we'll go from there. But oh my god, this just
goes so hard.
I can't wait to see what this does, because the way the character looks and is introduced, it looks like he is he is going to be probably potentially one of the main antagonists, if nothing else.
You know what he looks like? Did you ever watch the new Messiah movie?
Yes, this basically looks like
he's like school shooter phase.
Exactly.
It's just like on the period where he's like, my friend moved away, so I'm gonna bomb a stadium. Like that's that level of like Ibuki. I'm looking forward to him. He looks cool.
Right. So that was the 6 main units that are going to be introduced with the new 6 characters. We do have other supporting characters, such as Hikari Moyodo, which is, if I remember correctly, our MC's sister that apparently is hospitalized.
Can I be real? So you know how like we skipped the slide where it gives a story summary?
I know.
Can you imagine? So you know how like the gimmick is like, oh, we're gonna do a game of 6 players and the winner gets their wish granted? Can you imagine if she if Akira makes finals and his dream is like, I want my sister to recover, but then his sister fucking dies because he gets OT'd out of finals?
Anyway, dark twist out of the way, we do have another returning character inside of DZ, and that is Megumi Okura, and she's just coming back with Magnolia Elder, not Mask anymore.
Good. God Christ, bring back the Elder. That was a cool deck.
Dude.
Like, I'm like happy they're bringing it back. I guess they're trying to make her like the new what was the name? It was the coolest
Shin?
No, God, no Shin. God, he's like one of my favorite. I'm blanking on his name. Victor Kid. Kamui.
Oh, that.
Yeah, I was like blanking on his name. I'm like, no, but he's the king. He's the one. He is that man.
Yeah, because she's apparently now going to be a 3rd-year student, and apparently she's working part-time at a card shop, which does basically fill all those check marks.
I hope Danji has a restraining order against her.
Bruh, let's not get into that. There's one last character we do need to cover, and that is Gebvelius, which is basically our new trick star.
Lelouch v Britannia?
It's our new trick target, so deal with it.
And it's Lelouch v Britannia, what do you mean?
Okay, so with the news, actually, no, not that yet. There it is.
Oh, these are good. These are going to be cool. I'm looking forward to it.
So, with these new units that are going to be coming inside of the first set of DZ, there's also something new. So not only did we get an energy crest as a new mechanic, we're getting something called a divine skill that these 6 faded ones are going to be apparently having. What this divine skill is going to do, we do not know yet. How it plays, we do not know yet. All we do know, it is apparently a once per fight ability.
So for other people who play other card games, think of this as like V-star skills in Pokemon. There's like things like you can only proc, no matter how many cards you have, they may have this. You can proc one of these per game. And like, that's it.
Now, I do wonder if it's going to be actually that. Or is it going to follow the Regulus piece mentality of once you use it, you can no longer use it ever? Which honestly could make sense. I can actually see them introducing Regulus pieces to test out the waters of once per fight abilities.
Yeah.
Because that's
I can
Bushiro.
see this being simple skills in the beginning, which will be neat.
Exactly. So this is Bushiro in a nutshell. They've always introduced new mechanics very tamely and then expanded on them later. A good example is I'm pretty sure markers were slowly starting to get introduced in G and somewhat V, and then they fully got realized.
Wait, did you have any markers?
I don't remember. I think I'm just mixing treasure markers.
Yes, that was V. That was set 10
so
and 9.
But my point gets super emphasized when I talk about orders, because at the end of V series we did get
they started
orders,
playing around with them. Yeah.
but nobody really emphasized in them. And then when we got standard, they really evolved orders to become something that's almost staples in certain decks.
Yeah. And the interesting thing with this as well is I can see, like, I think it'll be kind of cool trying to derive, once we see one divine skill, trying to derive what it is for others. So, like, my expectation is that, like, I don't know if anybody plays Hearthstone, but at one point in time. No, because I don't know if you...
No. Sorry. No. Ignoring all that. I'm sorry for interrupting and ignoring all of that. I just realized something stupid that probably isn't true, but damn, it could be.
What is it?
You know what they could have been testing the waters for? Break Ride could have been the precursor of Stride.
I mean, possibly. I think it was a long enough break between the two. I don't think that was necessarily a direct thing. I guess that's possible.
It's just a theory.
Well, the thing is, in a sense, anything there's only so much they can really evolve on. So I guess in some way you can argue that, like, far enough back anything was, like, tested, but
yeah,
I don't know about those two specifically.
I'm just having fun because it just came to mind.
No, that'd have been cool though. Because, like, the thing is, this basically reminds me of a possibility where I don't know if anybody here ever played Hearthstone, but there used to be a deck in Wild, which is like their version of Premium, called Aviana Kun in Druid, and basically the gimmick of it was, because in Hearthstone your mana goes up to 10, you would have Aviana, which would be a 9 mana card, and Kun, which was a 10 mana card. You'd play Aviana, whose text just said all of your minions cost 1, and then you'd play Kun, whose effect was either gain a bunch of armor, which doesn't matter, or refresh your mana crystals. So if I guess I can see a divine skill that would work that way, where, like, one of them just goes like fill your energy gauge, set your energy gauge to 10 or something.
That'd be cool.
Or another thing that's like, oh, for the rest of this turn, all of your energy blast skills cost 1 or something.
Or cost 1 less or something like that.
Yeah, it's just like some absolute, like, bonkers skill, like 2 or 3 less, because it's like a once per game thing, right?
Well, it
basically
probably
goes like,
going
for
to be
this one turn,
another.
you just go off.
Well, it's probably going to be another 4 to 5 weeks before we potentially get anything for this, because the next few weeks it looks like they're going to slowly, for each Tuesday and Thursday stream, trial deck. So it's going to take a while. But until we get there, we do need to talk about how they are still doing booster packs where they're going to include all 6 nations, but they're pulling a set 6, set 7 gimmick where they're going to introduce 4 of the faded ones inside of the first set of DZ, and then the last 2 of the faded ones inside of the second set. And can you tell me what you see in this split of units?
In what sense?
What did we talk about a little while ago? Okay, connected to the characters that play these units.
Well, I would just expect that the villains get introduced later on in the season, but that's not
exactly
uncommon for Vanguard. Because it's probably going to do what normal series, which is going to be like a first arc that's going to be like pretty light on like new characters. It's going to be like world building a bit,
and a game introducing and stuff like that.
Yeah, because apparently we know the first episode or 2 are going to involve a practice match between the Dragon Empire girl and our main protagonist.
Yep.
Because we know it's going to be using the trial decks, not their main set units. But the main
overall,
thing,
this is going to be exciting. I am feeling a little bit sad because this is just following the same thing as Jewel. Like, I was super sad. Like, oh, Youthberg and Leonor got upgrades. Why is my Jewel in set fucking 7? So
because he's in a coma. But he is literally your resident sleeper.
Right.
The thing that's interesting is, this slide gives me so much joy. The fact that we're getting Cray Elemental triggers is so good.
Yep,
because
we're getting a couple of reprints and new things for construction inside of the first set. Not only is each nation again getting the good Sentinels, and they're reprinting all of the overtriggers, especially both of the Cray Elementals. Yep. But you said it perfectly. We're getting Cray Elemental triggers, which is honestly going to save set space while still giving people the triggers.
Because what this does is it does a few things. One, you can never have enough triggers. I don't care what you say. You can never have enough triggers. Second of all, the fact that now you're going to have less bloat dictated to like literal garbage cards and more cards that anybody can use is good. And also, the thing that people keep missing out on, it's something I was talking to a guy at my locals for, because he sells a lot more cards than me. So he kind of has a bit more of an insight into this. shout out Eddie if he reads this, if he sees this, I guess. But basically what happened with D is they so solely, like, rarely reprint triggers that common trigger reprints for, like, I'm saying as us players who play the game often, we don't have a problem with this.
But for new players.
But for new players, they could be looking at spending upwards of $1 to $2 per playset of triggers, like basic vanilla triggers, which, like, doesn't seem like a lot. But when you think back to V and you realize basically every set had triggers for most of the clans represented within it, that starts looking a little weird. And you realize that there actually, outside of trial decks, haven't been many distributions of triggers in standard.
Like,
It's
the only triggers that
like
really need to
sets.
cost anything on the secondary market is the effect triggers.
Even
But
then,
for
I don't
normal
think they should
triggers-
cost a massive amount, but, like, I think the vanilla triggers should be something everybody has, like, a spare 20 of.
Exactly.
So they should just be printed that much. I don't think you should ever have a situation where you want to buy a new deck, but you can't build it because you just don't have the triggers.
So
Like, I think
this,
that's kind of insane.
so on a different topic, this problem was already solved with the bank tree crit triggers coming out.
Yes.
But just
Yes.
seeing more different crit triggers just means my chaos is getting better and better.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. But also the fact that, like, the bank tree triggers were only in one set. I think if every set had collab triggers, not just crits, I think that'd be pretty cool.
Exactly. Anyway,
yeah,
next slide,
and the
because I'm
overdrive stuff.
starting to. Okay, so we already covered that. Beautiful.
Yeah,
So
we
I
spoke
can
about this in
skip
the
all of
beginning.
that.
Yes, sir.
Oh yeah, there we go.
So, Philip, important question for you. Who got Matoa banned?
The what?
Who got Matoa banned?
I don't want to get into this. I'm not going to start this. We're going to skip that. We're just going to say the Japanese ban list from the stream translated in English. And yes, we got whatever her name is.
Matoa banned,
also, yeah, banned inside of premium, which does it just kill the loop?
Yes. So the main gimmick with the loop decks was, as long as this card was legal, we were looping. The second that she's no longer legal, the loop stops.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, no, I'm happy they didn't errata her because, you know, my opinions on erratas. And the nice thing is this will be illegal for Worlds. It's a shame it took the rest of the BCS season for it to happen, but I'm just happy to see her gone at this point.
Exactly. Now, moving forward to the last bit of news before we go to the 2-hour mark. We already covered all of that. That is talking about the upcoming, because BCS season has officially ended with the recording of this video, or technically posting of this video, which means the only next thing to do for this season is Worlds, which will happen in February. But after that, we got to look forward to Bushiroad Springfest 2024. Couple of new things added, couple of new changes. People are very divisive on this. I know Echo's going to get a rant on this. I'm just going to stay here with a smiling face, potentially grab a beer later, but who knows. What I'm talking about is Springfest is staying a team tournament and standard format is staying a team tournament, but they decided to basically X, V, and premium team fights and instead introduce tri-regional team tournament. Basically, a team format with a twist. Each member will participate in a different card game Vanguard format. That basically means one of your teammates is going to play standard, the other one premium, and the other one V.
Yeah. So the thing with this is some people might already be familiar with this because one of the WGPs in Japan, I think, did this fairly recently. But for people outside of that, you guys might remember, for those of us in the UK, a couple of years ago, we held the Yellow Card Cross Top Deck In tournament, VGCS. I believe it was about a year and a half, 2 years ago now. Actually, about 2 years ago now, which was held in this exact format. We thought it would be a pretty good way to get new players into playing the game and gives them a chance to kind of make some friends who might prefer other formats, because Standard was quite young at this point. This was when Set 4 had just come out. So people just kind of wanted to play a couple different formats, and we thought we'd give everybody something to do if we get everybody in one spot. That being said, while I think that's really cool for a community event, I kind of hate this as the next competitive thing for Vanguard. Only because you want to chime in.
So here's a couple of things. I know where you're going to go with this. Here's a couple of things I just want to say immediately for this. There's pros and cons, of course, to everything. And this thing also has some pros and cons. A couple of pros I want to say right off the bat is the fact I do find this cool. As a concept, I do find this cool. Having just each player had different format, fighting
I think
each
as a
player
side
in a
event,
different.
this is fantastic. As a side
Exactly.
event.
So I'm gonna just immediately touch on that topic. Then I've never viewed Springfests as a competitive event because the prize outs, because of the things you actually gain from them, and because of how the thing goes. Because Springfest is a team tournament, you don't get an invite. There is no big championship series. There is no grand title that you can say your team's best in the world. It just doesn't exist for Springfest. On top of that, because it is team format and you're basically going through 3 different decks versus 3 different decks, you're always going to have like 2 people that are potentially playing the most meta decks, while the third person is either also playing something that's high tier or something that's just fucking rogue out of nowhere. So you're getting this very big diversity of decks, which is the good part about Springfest and team formats. Which I'm also going to then tie to a negative for this try thing, but I'm going to get to that later, is just that you never really, like, you could have potentially had the best day of your life. You win, let's say, 7-0 in a 7-round tournament, but then your both teammates just didn't perform as well. So, okay, cool, you didn't really get that far. Can you actually call that you did well, but your teammates did poorly? So were you really good? Were you as a team bad? So was it really competitive? I mean, you did basically something that could put you in top 8, but your teammates didn't. So I've never actually viewed Springfest as a competitor. I've always viewed it as, we're going to go have fun. We're going to potentially take the best decks to get our best score, sure. But we're going to have fun with friends. I'm excuse you. I'm going to potentially win or lose my game. And if I finish fast, and I'm going to turn to my side and go, oh, I hope he wins. I hope he wins. I hope he wins.
So the thing for that is, and I'm going to give you a bit of a different perspective on this, because I think one of the strengths is we play the game quite differently.
Exactly.
So Springfest isn't as competitive as BCS, but it has very distinct competitive elements I think make it really interesting. So for example, and then I'll explain how this ties into how this format changes things. So the cool thing in Springfest is you and your friends get to pick a format you all like. You tune in together, you all practice. And then the cool thing is, like you said, because normally you'd have teams made up of like 2 meta decks and like maybe a fringe pick. I think that's really cool, actually. I think Springfest is actually the format where you and your team can decide on good decks that have a distinctly different mentality to BCS. So BCS, you take a deck that you believe is either the best deck in the room or is a mid deck that can beat specific decks that you expect everybody else to bring. Okay?
Yeah.
So, for example, sorry. So if you look at for example, BCS Vienna, you had a lot of players who bring Narukami because they believe that the deck is like a baseline best deck in the room, or at least a deck that can beat out a bunch of things, right?
Yeah.
People bring decks maybe because they expect Redora to be a really good deck in the room. And then comes in Chaos, who goes, I lose to most of these decks, but because people aren't bringing those decks because you're bringing decks that beat them, I beat the deck you bring to beat the decks I lose to.
It's basically a high brain rock, paper, scissors at that point.
Yes. And the cool thing is, if your deck has one glaring weakness, so for example, sorry, my throat's slowly recovering. So for example, you walk into a room and you go, my deck is insane, but I auto lose to Narukami. Right? I sit down in a team format, and even if every single team has a Narukami player, there is only a 1 in 3 that I'm actually facing that player. Which means way wackier decks can top, which means people can play decks that are just decks that they like, that are maybe lower performing decks, because the decks that they would normally be dissuaded of bringing it because of, they are less likely to queue into. So you can still have a competitive environment where people just get to play far less like, this has to be the best deck in the room kind of decks. So which I think is really cool.
Well, I agree with you on that. And that is where I think the whole negative of the try thing comes in, where I talked about a little while ago. On paper, having literally a team of 3 V players and a team of 3 premium players, and having that concept of people are going to bring 3 different decks, you don't know what you're going to match yourself up against. There was also a really good mentality, a somewhat competitive mentality in that aspect of, let me put myself on A because I'm playing probably one of the best decks, so I'll take care of whoever shows up on A. We're going to put some rogue deck on C, or maybe you're thinking because everybody's going to put the best deck on A, they're going to put a counter to the best deck.
I auto lose to this one deck, so if I face it, I lose, but that means my teammates aren't facing it. Like that kind of arrangement.
Exactly. And that also translates transferred all the way to V and premium, and you saw more V decks and you saw more premium decks instead of just the same 3 or 4. So it gave more diversity overall, and it just gave more of that, and that was honestly a fun aspect. And like you said, you get to your team player, premium players, and you can fight against each other in practice and stuff like that.
And the cool thing as well is,
that's
I think
on
as well,
paper.
The thing as well is you realize that a lot of small communities that play the game, so we're part of fairly big communities, so we're biased on this. For a lot of people who have a small locals, and that's where their like friend group comes from, they normally tend to flourish around one format. So if your locals is 5 people, I think the odds are pretty low that like one of you is a standard player, 2 of you are V players, and 2 of you are premium players. Odds are like you're all standard players, like you're all premium players. Like, so in that sense, being forcing 2 of your team members to play a format that they're maybe not as big a fan of, or making it so that play testing for any one format is wasting 2 of the 3 players' time, I think is not the best feeling.
See, that's a plus point I'm going to get to here in a bit.
A plus, okay.
The thing, I'll tell you this because it's kind of tied, because you got to look at it from both perspectives. Because the one perspective is the fact that it's like you said, like now you went from 3 V players to 3 premium players, 3 standard players making a team, to now you have to go, okay, cool, I need a V player and a premium player if I want to play standard, or I need a premium player and a standard player if I want to play V, and so forth and so forth. So it became of much more like, okay, you don't get to play what you want to play because I want to play this or that and that, which is one of those things. But at the same time, like I was talking a little bit on paper a while ago, it would be really cool to have a full team and play. And you have unfortunately experienced that firsthand, where you come with a full team and want to play the same format, and then the turnout says, no, you turn into singles. So the reality of the situation is one of the formats, and it's no joke, V, was kind of lacking behind of player base, interest, and so forth, because there were V players. We're not saying there's not enough V players. The problem is whenever your other format is...
Because the only time that V gets turnout is when it comes at the cost of like... So basically, people that play V, at the moment, at least from my experience, are very rarely V fans. What they are Vanguard players that aren't fans of premium or standard at the moment. Exactly. Which means that when other formats are doing well, so for example, the issue we had at Springfest was the standard meta was the one we were crashing with, and that was Ava and Jet, which although repetitive was a fun format, I think.
But you see, V would honestly have a bigger turnout if it didn't have to go competing with premium or standard, because whenever a day comes where you can play V, standard or premium is on the other side, and unfortunately, more than likely, you're going to jump to those events before you're going to jump to V. V was always like the second choice, other than the V players that you mentioned that primarily either play V because they like the game or they don't want to play the other 2 games. So it always was competing with the other 2. And because of that, it happened to you. You went in a team tournament and it turned into singles because of the turnout. So that's not going to be...
I think I would still rather play a singles event and be mad than play with a teammate where like two of your teammates are not playing something they want to play. No, to make it clear, I'm not saying try was the solution for the V problem. Yeah.
I'm just saying we have a V problem for Springfests. Now the solution, and on my honest... The solution, in my honest, full-blown, unfiltered opinion, is the XV. For those of you who like V, I'm sorry, but V needs to slowly go away.
Unless you're going to start supporting it with more than promos.
Exactly.
And then it can just be premium support.
So, to go back to the Tri side, though, I do find some good things about the Tri regional format. One is the fact that it supports connectivity in a sense. If your team for some reason does not have a V, a premium player, standard player, whatever, the bad word is to say forces you, but it kind of does, to connect and find people that you can play with and kind of expand and get more in touch with other people. So in a sense, it's not bad for connectivity. On the other side, this is from personal experience, look at it this way. I am full-blown a standard player. I know how to play the other 2 formats. we have a guy in our team called Atreus that is fully loves V, but nobody plays V, so he plays mostly standard, and then he does have some premium, but he if he could, he would want to play V. And then you got other people in my team that honestly do find premium really fun and would not mind playing premium, or vice versa. I honestly wouldn't mind playing premium if someone else plays standard, because I know how to play the thing, and as long as I get a good deck, I'll be fine. So in my team, and this is only for my opinion, my team, we're fine. We go into this, we know exactly who's playing what, we're not having a problem. But not everybody else is fortunate, and I am very understanding of that fact that not everybody can do that.
I don't think it's even a fortune thing. So you guys are lucky in that you guys have been playing since G. I think this most hurts locals that maybe people started playing during standard. Because all of a sudden two of you have to play other formats that you're just not familiar with. And especially when people complain that V and Premium have such a high learning curve, I think it's a really bad feeling. So say you and your friends play only standard, to suddenly be told two of you have to learn a format, and two of you will lose every single game almost because you just don't have the knowledge for this. So
I want to say something on that aspect and completely just shut down one thing that's unfortunately been going everywhere. Just because I'm okay with try to an extent does not mean I'm okay with it, because there's also a standard Springfest format, which is just three standard decks.
Standard's always been getting support. I don't think that's anybody's specific issue.
Unfortunately, there has been people going around saying, "Oh, because you still get a standard Springfest, you're not bothered by try. What if they did a premium Springfest and try, and you didn't have your own standard? How would you feel about?" Like, that argument to me is just asinine. When you're talking about as a format, thing
that's specifically responding to, because that's responding to like a very. I know the response you're talking about. It's referring to a very specific demographic, because most of the premium players, because this doesn't really work both ways, which is why I'm going to have to quickly go through it. So it's like all premium players can play standard, but not all standard players can play premium. Standard is always getting support. That's not an issue. No one's mad that standard's getting a full teams event. That's not a problem. No. I think the people are specifically referring to are the standard players who don't play premium, who are basically going, well, you still get to play the game. And it's kind of one of those things where, like,
that's also a bad argument.
Respectfully to those people, if you're not a premium player, shut up. This actually doesn't concern you.
Which I completely agree with this. From a premium perspective and V perspective, from both of those, you've basically got shot in the foot going, well, now I need to find teammates that play the other two formats, and I can't play with my teammates that play the same format as I do. And I completely understand that. So there's plus and minuses to both of this.
And like the thing, because for example, like I think as well, because you were saying earlier about the team aspect of this, I think that although you could argue that like the extra like the bigger deck size, not deck size, like the bigger deck variety, and the fact that it's like a 3v3 event where like maybe you can do really well, but your team just bricks. I think that part of that does help towards the Springfest experience of like, sometimes you just have a bad day, but like your friends can pull you through. And like you can all play a format you love, and then there can be cases where like maybe, I'm saying maybe because that's been both of my like premium tops for Springfest, has been like maybe I'm like eating shit all day and my teammates are like hard carrying me. But then there's like the one game where like one of them's up, one of them's down, and I like each etch a win through. And like I have like 2 wins throughout the day, but both of them like get us top 8. Like stuff like that is really cool and can stop you from spiraling and lets you have a good experience anyway. Because then it's you and friends like shooting the shit and having a good time. But I think the concern becomes when, for example, I'm going to use my Springfest in Germany experience. So Ray and Mash, good friends of mine, like we're all teaming together. The issue became, if this was the format we were under, I think we could have managed, but only in the sense that I'm okay in all 3 formats. Like I could play any of them, but both of them are really not fans of standard. So I would have probably just taken the standard pick, I would have taken Gen, it's whatever. But then if you look at Springfest in London, the team that came second both days, Desasno Producers, are also friends of ours. And they are, it's at the time, it's slightly changed now that more decks have come out, were vehement standard dislikers, not enjoyers. So I think if they were forced to play standard, one of them would have basically had the feeling of like taking one for the team. And I'm sure they'd do it because they're all friends. But
Right.
when you don't have that background, you have to team with randoms. I think it feels double bad when you have to travel with the hope that someone's going to be there because you just don't know people. And because you don't know these people, you can't necessarily trust them. They might just pull out and then you traveled for nothing, which I think is like a mega bad feeling. Even if you get there, you may have taken one for your team, but your team might just be like people you don't know and they might just be really bad or something. And maybe you're a really competitive player. Or maybe one of them spirals in a way that you were not aware of because you don't know this person.
Oh, I honestly do believe for competitive players, this is just, but this is going back to my first initial statements.
No, because this is actually more of a concern, I think, for casual players, because the competitive players probably have a circle. It's the casual players that would have to probably skim, you know what I mean? It's gonna have to skim social media to try and find these teammates because they don't have those you and I have the fortune of knowing people.
Yeah, but that can be again said. They might find other casual players that are also trying to find teammates, and the whole connectivity part of it.
Maybe, but casual players are a lot less likely to travel for these events.
Exactly. It's very hard, maybe, but again, it's one of those things. It's always been a part of for normal Springfest, Springfest within a team, you might have people that are like, oh, I don't think I can travel. So it's the whole travel aspect. It's
I think this is twofold, because I think the biggest concern here is the fact that because other formats don't have their try regulation, people kind of feel like they're being forced to play a format they don't want to play. But the bigger thing, and that would be the main thing, really.
But so there's one more thing here. Sure, trying to find connectivity to find players to play VMP, but for a sad fact, there is still some people out there that don't already have a circle at all. So they would, even participate in Springfest, even if it was the same format across the board, they would still need to find people. So that's same difference there.
Sure, but I think for a lot of time the issue also becomes that if you playtest with your friends for this format, some of you are wasting your time because you're not playing it. But I think where this would have been really cool, and that's why I'm sad they didn't do it, I think this type of team event would be great as a side event, because if you went X2 and you guys just did kind of ass, you can just go, hey man, let's unwind. We can just play our try format and just everybody grab a different deck. You can team with people. Maybe you and your friends drop. Your friends want to get food. You're not really feeling it, but you still want to play an event. So you just team with people from other formats. I think that's where the community building can come in without coming at the expense of, even though this isn't as competitive as BCS.
You know what? No, actually, I think I know what they should have done.
What is it?
I think, I don't know if it's the best solution. In my head right now, initially thinking about it, I think it might have been the best solution. One of the reasons potentially why they're doing this is because they're introducing other card games to the events.
Yes, so
Shadowverse is going to be...
The reason this is happening is because Shadowverse is getting a BSF.
Yeah.
So that clears up that.
I do think I think I know how they could have fixed this, because White Swords is a thing, Shadowverse is a thing, and all that. And it would still be clogged. It would potentially be the same problem. The initial fix, of course, is just make Shadowverse its own event, but that's budgeting. Yes. That's to completely not completely, but give a little bit of a consensus why they didn't make Shadowverse their own event, but White Swords their own event. It all comes down to money. At the end of the day, all of these regionals from Springfest to BCS are free entry. Bushiroad really isn't making any money back, so they're only putting money into this for us, for the players. So them spending more money. Because imagine, for one region, right, we have maybe 7 Springfest locations for Europe, right?
So actually, Philip, so I'm going to stop for a second. Just so you have a place to cut it if you want to. We do know why that's the case for spacing. I can go into it, but let me know if you want me to. I put it in a way you can cut it out if you don't want me to. Because it's a bit internal Bushiroad stuff. Or not internal, but
Sure.
Because so basically the way it works, and it's mainly a Europe thing. I think you'll find America doesn't really have this issue. It's that when shops get contacted for events, because the shops normally sponsor the thing, what ends up happening, at least in SEA, less of Japan, but America, is a shop will be given the venue. The venue will be handled by Bushiroad. They'll be able to coordinate everything, and then the venue gets a certain amount of money. That is also their budget, so get everything there, employ the people that are going to work that space, right? The issue in Europe is, and that amount, I'm not going to go into that, but let's say, for example, it's $2,000, right? They go you have $2,000 budget of employ your people for that day, right? Europe has the same budget. except we don't have a Bushiroad branch to fund and host the location, which means in Europe, and it's the reason why so many shops do it internally or go to like a really close crammed location, is because they have that budget to do everything that it's meant to do in America, plus rent the venue.
Okay,
which means we're able to fit much smaller spaces, which means this is kind of cramming an even bigger population to an even smaller area, which is a concern.
So that's fine. That's all fine and dandy. That's actually really cool and makes sense after being in both events, and it actually does make sense. But it doesn't really help or supplement my point. My point of the matter is still stands even with that in mind, is the fact that, think of it this way. Even, okay, let's say America then, and it doesn't really matter. Just pick a nation. You have 7 per that region,
Dragon
right?
Empire. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So you have 7 per that region, right?
Sure, yeah.
So imagine if they had to supplement another 7 just for Shadowverse. Or up to another 7 locations just for Shadowverse. Like, it can be the same. Like, you can go to, for example, Atlanta Dula, and it's in that convention center. And we can do Springfest, where it's just Vanguard and Weiss. And then the next week, it's Shadowverse. But that's 2 days. They had to do 2 events instead of putting all in one. From a budgetary perspective, from a business perspective, they're putting double the money into something they're not getting as much money back from. So from that perspective, it makes sense while they're trying to cram all of their card games into one event.
Thing is, yes, but what would be cool, and if they could do, and this would have been potentially helped if we had kind of the American scale here, would be you would be able to actually have bigger events as well. If you had a branch of Bushiroad or somebody that could arrange for these big venues that doesn't come at the expense of these local shops, you could have bigger venues in better locations.
See, that's great and all. That costs money.
Sure. But the thing is, I think honestly, I don't think most people wouldn't be opposed to like a small entry fee if it meant you got stuff.
Yeah, okay, I was actually going to bring that up, so thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, I honestly do think, like, if people really want for Bushiroad to start expanding and doing these events more, like, properly, so it's not all crammed into one and we don't face these problems where you have like 5 different formats because it's like 3 Vanguards, Weiss, and Shadowverse in 2 days, and it's just all crammed and you don't know what you want to play and you got to sacrifice one game that you played for the other game that you want to play, and so forth and so forth. I honestly do think, like, if people want really that, Bushiroad should be fine with introducing an entry fee. Now, not a big entry fee that's going to be, crazy, but a reasonable entry fee to kind of supplement all that and put back into these events.
Yeah, so, but the neat thing as well is, if they were to do that and were able to expand, you'd be able, I think, to actually have locations that are sufficiently big to justify bigger player turnout, which would not only help the community aspect, because there would just be more people there, but also you would have the space to run these events concurrently, which would mean you don't actually have to cannibalize your own formats to fit everybody in.
Exactly, but
because your staff for Vanguard and Shadowverse aren't the same people, neither are the player base. So these are people
I play all 3 formats.
Okay, but you're not attending Shadowverse competitively if the Vanguard's available.
If I could, I would.
Yeah, but that would require Shadowverse to be a separate event in a separate location, which is what we agree that we're not going to do.
Exactly. So
it's like, given that, I'd rather just have a bigger venue that allows for everybody to play their format of choice instead of being crammed into this as a cost-saving measure.
Agreed. But again, the reality of the situation is we do not have entry fees. So it's a free tournament. Because of that, they don't want to expend, or at least I'm assuming most of this, they don't want to expend the extra funds to make these events if they can all put it in one. From a business perspective, that actually makes sense. Why would you put more money? Because from the grand scheme of things, I don't think it's going to change the player base that much or increase it enough to make it worth spending that extra money. Yeah. So from that perspective, and the reality of the situation is, while we have free entry, this is just how it's going to have to be. This solution, or if you want to call it a solution, introducing tri-regional, it's not a good solution, it's not a bad solution, but it's just the way things are right now. Does it suck for premium V players? 100%. I would not want to be a V player or premium player primarily right now. I will count myself lucky I'm a standard player, but I don't think that's one of the reasons this sucks. There's more nuance to that.
I think the big grievance here, and this is, I know this, I'm probably speaking as like for most premium players, it feels like the solution here is simple, and that's to axe V. But for some reason, like Bushiroad was like insisting on not doing that, and now it's like, so far it's been a thing of like, fine, like have your low turnout events, we don't care. But like now that it actively comes at the cost of like that event a year that like you get to play with your friends, I think now it's becoming a much more like thing that people are taking personally.
Exactly.
Because now it comes to the thing of like, no, this is what I look forward to every year.
All right. So we're going to put a pin on that. I think we discussed it very nicely from all perspectives. See, we can have a civil conversation about this and not just fucking blow it about everything.
Dude, imagine if we had a conversation like this with Yumi and Eric on a regular basis.
Anyway, moving on. There is also going to be introducing a new special tournament series for the launch of the first product for Booster Set 1 and Trial Decks. And basically, it's going to be a tournament... Basically, it's going to be a tournament series where only DZ cards will be legal.
Only these nuts.
So it's basically like introducing a sunsetting, but only for the launch of the series, which honestly is cool. I think this tournament is cool because you don't get the bullshit of whatever's currently coming out. You don't have to worry about Ignis. You don't have to worry about Musha King. You don't have to worry about Leonorn. You don't have to worry about MyGo that we might potentially be getting, and so forth and so forth.
This is identical to the Japanese Kidani Cup that they had a while ago, where you had to play with trial deck ride lines.
Exactly. So this will be that with the booster set and the start decks. So it'll be just a fresh, this is just easy and how it plays. So it'll be a nice introduction to the game, as well as see how the decks just fare on their own. And then us players will be able to look and goes, cool, now I can add this set 9 card or the set 10 card or the set 13 card into the deck and make it even better.
Yeah, no, it's like we were saying, it used to be Japan, I believe, used to run similar sets to this, or similar tournaments to this rather. And the cool thing as well is like it's just going to mean a bit of like an El Bozo to like all the Zorga and Dark States fans. But I think 4 people have DeFi skills is like good enough. So we'll see how that goes. We'll see what else they announce.
On top of that, we're getting something upcoming that's called Vanguard Day 2024. It's apparently a new tournament format. I don't know what it is. We haven't gotten much information about this, so it's still pending, but I'm very much excited to see what they're going to announce for this.
You know what's going to be really funny? I know they won't do it. I just think it'll be a really funny tournament setup. If you have a case of like, you basically roll a dice with your opponent, because 6-sided dice, 1, 2 is one score, 2, 3 is another, 3, 4 is another, 5, 6 is a third, and depending on which one you roll, determines the format you're playing. So it's a one-on-one tournament where you have to bring all 3 decks. I think that'd be really funny. I don't want it, but I think it'll be really funny.
I honestly do think something would be cool if they introduced in Vanguard, just because it would give more deck diversity, and it is a 2-deck format for not different formats, but same format. So let's say you're playing standard.
I think Conquest would be really cool. Ironically, I think Conquest should be great.
I saw Shadowverse tournaments with Conquest, and I found it really cool, where you basically take 2 decks and you have to win with both to win the thing.
So the format for that was really cool. Was Hearthstone did this? They would bring 3 decks, but you didn't see the deck list necessarily. But you would get to basically ban one of your opponent's decks, and then get to ban one of yours, and then you'd play against the best of 3 with the other 2. Which I thought would be really cool. Like, it adds a lot of like space, but I think like an invitational type format or like a top 8, I think that'd be really cool.
But speaking of Vanguard Day, we'll see what actually comes. Apparently, it's an ultra competitive event starting from May onwards. Champions get to walk away with the exclusive playmats. So apparently, an ultra competitive, not BCS. To be clear, this is apparently not BCS. So this is just its own thing. More information will be coming for this later down the road.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, with all that being said, and Vanguard Day being a nice conclusion on the thing, I'm going to try to end this episode here before it goes to a 2-hour mark.
Do we not talk about like Crest being just like Speedwall from Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds?
I mean, you might have mentioned it, but no.
It literally is Speedwall, because going fast makes us feel alive. But no, it literally is just Speedwall. You just get speed counters every turn.
So there is one more card I do need to mention. I'm going to throw this in with the card reveals back over there. So more editing, yay for me. We did get one Gray Elemental, technically, or Nationless.
Oh, yes, we did.
Grade 2. And that is Light Elemental Papa. It's a Grade 2 Nationless or Gray Elemental, however you want. Technically, it's Nationless.
Isn't it like you may Energy Blast 4 to draw a card, to ride
something like that? So its ability is continuous Vanguard Rearguard. When we would ride from your ride deck, you can ride with Energy Blast 4 instead of choosing a card from hand and discarding it. So this works on Vanguard or Rearguard. And then auto when this unit is placed on Rearguard or put to Guardian Circle, cost Energy Blast 2, and this unit gets power 5k, shield 5k until the end of turn, making it 15k or 10k shield. So overall, just not a bad vanilla card. I do like the fact that you can have this on Rearguard and swing it at your opponent, and then you ride into grade 3 by Energy Blasting 4.
Yeah. I think that's really, really freaking cool. But the interesting is because it's a Vanguard skill, I wonder if we're going to get a Vanguard deck, like a Vanguard ride line that features these kind of Cray Elementals.
Let's not. We did that in Premium and it sucked. Anyway. So concluding all this, a lot of stuff has been mentioned. This has been going on for fucking 2 hours. Thank God we got to record it after all the bullshit that happened in the beginning.
For 3, so it's fine. It's only our 6th attempt.
I know, right? Anyway, with all that being said, we're going to end this episode here. Thank you, Erico, for joining me. If you liked the episode, please like, share with your friends. Comment down below about anything you think about that we talked about. May it be the new Vanguard series, may it be the new units, maybe the energy mechanic, maybe divine skill mechanic that we know, it can be about the ban list, it can be about the tournament format, the try format. All I ask is be civil, because you will be banned. Anywho, with all that being said, if you like the video, please like, share with your friends, all that. If you like what we do here, subscribe to the channel, ring that bell to get notified, maybe even become a member for some awesome perks. But with all that being said, I've been Philip.
And I've been Echo.
And we'll see you guys in the next one.
See you guys at Proxy Fight.
Pretty much.
Bye-bye.
Woo!
Woo!
Oh my, please, holy shit, please tell me you have everything recorded.
1 sec. Dum 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 dum.
Hallelujah!